What's up, legends? Before we even start, I need you to do two things right now. Smash that like button until it turns blue, and hit subscribe with all your might. Don't just click it, destroy it. You want to learn English. You want to hear incredible stories. Then you need to be part of this community. Let's go. Today, we're diving into a story of incredible courage, a story that has touched millions of hearts around the world. We're talking about Anne Frank. Her voice, captured in a simple diary, has become one of the most powerful testaments to the human spirit's endurance against unimaginable darkness. So, listen closely, not just to the story, but to the words, the phrases, the rhythm of the language. This is how you'll learn. Anneliese Marie Frank, known to the world as Anne, was born on June 12, 1929, in Frankfurt, Germany. She lived with her parents, Otto and Edith Frank, and her older sister, Margot. The Franks were a liberal Jewish family, and for the first few years of Anne's life, they lived in a community of both Jewish and non-Jewish neighbors. But the world around them was changing rapidly and dangerously. When Adolf Hitler's Nazi Party gained power in 1933, the situation for Jewish people in Germany became unbearable. Otto Frank, a smart and forward-thinking man, saw the writing on the wall. He decided to move his family to safety. Their new home was Amsterdam, in the Netherlands. There, Otto started a company, and for a while, life returned to a semblance of normality. Anne was a bright, energetic, and outgoing child. She quickly learned Dutch, made friends, and excelled at her Montessori school. She was known for being talkative and a bit of a chatterbox, full of life and curiosity. But the shadow of the Nazi regime was long. In May 1940, Germany invaded the Netherlands, and the occupation brought with it the same anti-Jewish laws that had forced the Franks to flee Germany. The freedoms they had briefly enjoyed were stripped away, one by one. Jewish people were forced to wear a yellow star. They were banned from public places, and their children had to attend separate schools. The world was closing in on them again. On her 13th birthday, just a few weeks before her family went into hiding, Anne received a gift that would change history: a red-white checkered diary. She immediately began to write in it, addressing her entries to an imaginary friend named Kitty. This diary would become her confidant, her place to pour out her thoughts, fears, and dreams. The turning point came in July 1942. Anne's sister, Margot, received a call-up notice to report to a so-called work camp in Germany. The family knew this was a death sentence. The time for waiting was over. The very next day, the Frank family disappeared from their apartment and went into hiding in a secret annex of rooms concealed behind a bookcase in Otto Frank's business premises at 263 Prinsengracht. They were not alone. They were joined by Otto's business partner, Herman van Pels, his wife August, and their son, Peter. later an eighth person. A dentist named Fritz Pfeffer also joined them in the cramped space. They called their hidden home the secret annex. For over 2 years, 761 days to be exact, these 8 people lived in constant fear of discovery. Life in the secret annex was a world of whispers and shadows. During the day, they had to be absolutely silent to avoid alerting the workers in the warehouse below. They couldn't walk around freely, use the bathroom, or even cough too loudly. Their only connection to the outside world was a small group of trusted, non-Jewish employees, including MEP GIs, who risked their own lives to bring them food, supplies, and news. For a teenager like Anne, this confinement was incredibly difficult. She was growing up, changing from a girl into a young woman. But she was trapped. Her diary became her escape. In its pages, she documented everything: the daily routines, the squabbles and tensions between the residents, the fear of the bombs falling outside, and her own personal struggles. She wrote about her complicated relationship with her mother, her admiration for her father, and her budding romance with Peter Van Pels. But Anne's diary is so much more than a simple record of daily life. It's a profound work of a young writer discovering her talent. She wrote with incredible honesty, insight, and humor. She reflected on human nature, loneliness, and her own identity. She dreamed of becoming a journalist or a famous writer after the war, and she even began rewriting her diary entries with the hope of one day publishing a book about her experiences. In spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart. This unwavering belief in humanity, even while surrounded by so much hate, is what makes her story so powerful. The fragile bubble of their existence was shattered on the morning of August 4th, 1944. An anonymous tip led the Gestapo, the German secret police, to the secret annex. To this day, the identity of the person who betrayed them remains one of history's painful mysteries. The 8 residents were arrested and taken away. Their journey into the heart of the Nazi horror began. They were first sent to a transit camp in the Netherlands called Westerbork. From there, they were packed into a cattle car on the last transport to ever leave Westerbork for Auschwitz, the infamous concentration and extermination camp in Poland. Upon arrival, the men and women were separated. This was the last time Otto Frank would ever see his wife and daughters. The conditions in the camps were beyond inhumane. Prisoners were starved, subjected to forced labor, and lived in constant fear of death. Yet, even in Auschwitz, Anne's spirit was not completely broken. Survivors later recalled how she and her sister, Margot, supported each other, clinging to life with a quiet strength. In late October 1944, as the Soviet army advanced, Anne and Margot were separated from their mother and transported to the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp in Germany. Edith Frank remained in Auschwitz and died of starvation a few months later. Bergen-Belsen is a place of disease and despair. Thousands of prisoners were crammed together with little food, water, or sanitation. A typhus epidemic swept through the camp. In the brutal winter of early 1945, both Margot and then Anne fell victim to the disease. They died just weeks before the camp was liberated by British forces in April. Anne was only 15 years old. Of the 8 people who hid in the secret annex, only one survived. Otto Frank, after being liberated from Auschwitz by Soviet troops. He made the long journey back to Amsterdam, holding onto the hope that his daughters might still be alive. It was only months later that he received the devastating news of their deaths. It was then that Miep Gies, one of the helpers, gave him something she had saved. After the raid on the annex, she had found Anne's diary and papers scattered on the floor. She had collected them, hoping to return them to Anne one day. Now, she gave them to Otto. Reading his daughter's words was a revelation for Otto. He had known she was bright, but he had no idea of the depth of her thoughts and feelings. He decided to fulfill her wish of becoming a writer by getting her diary published. Initially, he had difficulty finding a publisher, but in 1947, the diary of a young girl was finally published in the Netherlands under the title Het Achterhuis, which means the house behind. The book's reception was slow at first, but it gradually gained international attention. It was translated into English in 1952 and soon became a worldwide phenomenon. People everywhere were captivated by Anne's voice, the voice that was so personal and yet so universal. It put a human face on the incomprehensible statistics of the Holocaust. Readers didn't just learn about history. They felt it through the eyes of a young girl they came to know and love. Of course, with such fame came controversy. Over the years, some groups, often driven by hateful ideologies, have tried to deny the diary's authenticity, claiming it was a forgery. However, numerous forensic studies have confirmed beyond any doubt that the diary is genuine, written by Anne Frank herself. Legal actions were successfully taken against these deniers to protect the integrity of Anne's work and memory. When Otto Frank first prepared the diary for publication, he removed certain passages. Some were about Anne's candid thoughts on her sexuality, and others contained unflattering remarks about her mother and other residents of the annex. He did this to protect the privacy of the people involved. However, later unabridged editions have been published, restoring these sections and giving us an even more complete and honest picture of Anne as a writer and as a person. The legacy of Anne Frank is immense. Her diary has been translated into over 70 languages and has sold tens of millions of copies. The secret annex in Amsterdam is now a museum, visited by over 1 million people each year who come to stand in the silent rooms where she hid and wrote. Anne Frank has become a symbol of hope, tolerance, and the enduring power of the human spirit. She reminds us that even in the darkest of times, one small voice, writing in a hidden room, can echo through history and inspire generations to fight for a better world. Her life was tragically short, but her words have given her immortality. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey through the life of Anne Frank. I hope her story has moved you as much as it has moved me. Remember to practice the new words and phrases you learned today. If you found this story powerful and want more content like this to help you master English, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.